I'm life and business coach Samantha Sifring, and this is the Online Business Building Mamas podcast, where you learn how to build a wildly successful business from home while raising kids. Welcome to another episode of the Badass Mother podcast. And happy New Year's Day if you are listening to this live on the day that it comes out. Welcome to 2020. So today's episode, I am going to be diving into how I made $200,000 in 2019. So I set this impossible goal in December of 2018. I was a part of a coaching program and still am, where they have you set up an impossible goal every December and then do some of the mindset work and planning around it, planning for all of the failures that it's going to take to hit your impossible goal and all of those things. So in December of 2019, I had created about $50,000 in my coaching business over the course of 2018. And when I thought about an impossible goal, I had considered $100,000 and it didn't feel impossible. It felt like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do that in 2019. But what felt impossible at the time was $200,000. I remember sitting down and trying to do the math in my spreadsheet, and I couldn't even figure out how to make the math work. But over the course of 2019, I did it. I hit that number early in December of 2019, and I'm closing out the year at about $206,000. It's a few days before the end of the year as I'm recording this. So that's where I'm sitting right now, 206, and really kind of in awe and gratitude for myself and what I've done, and amazed at what I've done, and also very excited to see what I'm going to create in 2020 and how it's all going to go down. I was talking about my plans for 2020 with my husband yesterday and just kind of brainstorming. This is the week of Christmas that I'm recording this, and I've done a lot of thinking about my business. I took off the week from client calls, and I've had a lot of family time, holiday time, and a lot of time thinking and planning and brainstorming and all of that for my business for 2020 and 2021. So something my husband said to me as I was telling him some of the things I was thinking about, he was like, I can't wait to watch it. I'm so excited to watch what you do in 2020. And I was like, wow, I am too. I'm excited to see what I'm going to do in 2020. And I will for sure be updating all of you in here. My goal is $400,000 in revenue, but my bigger goal is to really lay the foundation and the groundwork for scaling to $1 million in 2021. So there's a lot of things I'm going to be doing in 2020 that are in preparation for what's to come. So there's going to be a lot of experimentation and testing and all of those kinds of things, learning, failing, of course, all of those things as I look towards what I'll be doing in 2021. All right, let's talk about $200,000 in 2019. So, as I said, a year ago, I couldn't figure out how to make the math work, but I ended up doing it. And I've been getting so many questions about the how I did it. And I wanted to share with you my reflections on the past year, on what I've done and how I've grown to get where I am right now. So first, I want to just fill you in that when I set this goal, I had a lot of thoughts. And I know my clients and my audience, you all love to hear about the mind drama that I have, because it's the same thoughts that you all have about your goals and your business. Our brains are not that creative. That's what I always say. So I wanted to read to you some of the things that my December 2018 self thought about 200,000 in 2019. So I'm going to read some of the reasons that I thought it was impossible. Remember, I set the goal thinking it was impossible. So here's why I thought it was impossible. I said, I don't even know how the numbers add up. 16,000 a month, which is if you divide 200,000 by 12 months, it's 16,000 a month, is preposterous. I don't do launches. My list and audience is too small. People unfollow me on Instagram. This one cracked me up the other day when I read it. I was like, oh my gosh, people unfollow me on Instagram. Too priceless. I'm not focused enough. I don't know enough. I don't manage my time well enough. I don't have enough time. It is crazy. I'm not meant to make that much money. 100K is much more realistic for me. The kids will never see me. I know that's one a lot of you think. The kids are never going to see me if I'm building a business that big. I don't want to be that disciplined. I know a lot of you identify with that one as well. I'm not ready. I should do 100,000 in a year first. I'm going to fail. This isn't going to work. I can't do it. Then I'll be depressed when it doesn't work. I was afraid of how it's going to feel. 50K or 100K is more realistic. This is like a joke. I can't even imagine making 200K. It's just not going to happen. My business isn't good enough to make 200K. There's no way you can make more than a 4,000 or a 4 times or 5 times, that's what it was, income jump in 1 year. It's impossible. I don't have the systems. I'm still too new. No one wants what I offer. It will be embarrassing when I don't reach it. It's too much. We aren't meant to be that rich. I know a lot of you can relate to that money mindset. This is weird. I can't do it. It's too much for me. I'm not good enough. It's out of reach. I'm not going to go viral or get the audience I need. I can't raise my rates. My business isn't clear enough. I don't offer enough, but also I offer too much. How many of you can relate to that? All right, so I found this really, really entertaining to read back through. I'm sure you could hear it in my voice that I was so entertained, and it was interesting to see just some of the things that I overcame over the course of the past year. So despite all of my doubts and fears, here's how I did it. So first, and this I think is really important, I had laid the groundwork in 2018. So while I didn't think my business was good enough or my audience was big enough or all of those things, I had spent 2018 talking to so many people and giving so much value, delivering so much value to people. I also really learned how to sell. My business coach that I started working with in 2018 is a sales expert. So I really got better and better at sales at the end of 2018 and then continued to really study deeply with her throughout 2019 and continue to get better at selling, but I had already started making those shifts in 2018. I had started a place to build my audience and nurture my audience, which was my Facebook group. I started it at the beginning of 2018, and it took me all of 2018 to get to 1,000 people. I think it was January of 2019 that I hit 1,000, so just about a year. And I began what I call a client pipeline. And this is something that I work on with all of my clients. I help my clients to first define how are people finding you? So where are you meeting people? How are they becoming introduced to you? Where are they then opting in to follow you? Maybe that could be a Facebook group, an email list, Instagram. That could be so many different things. And then how are you nurturing them? So what is that system, that process? For me, it's posting several times a day in my Facebook group. That's how I nurture my audience and deliver value to them. And then how are you helping them make that shift from somebody who's in your audience and following you to becoming your client? So that's like a very high level of what that process looks like. It is very different for all of my clients, for myself, for every successful business out there. That client pipeline is different, but there's really important pieces to each one. So I had already done quite a bit of the groundwork for getting kind of that rough structure in place in 2018. So some people go from 0 to 200K or more, and that wasn't my story. In 2018, like I said, I did about 50,000 in my business. I know there's people out there who are like, I made 50,000 in my first 6 weeks, and that's just not me. I really built my way up by talking to a lot of people, getting out there, learning to get better at sales, learning what my style of marketing was that was most effective with my ideal clients. And a lot of 2018 was really honing and developing those things. And then 2019 was when I could build on that foundation. So here's another interesting thing that I identified at the end of 2018 that helped me in 2019. So I had to ask this question of myself with the work of that coaching program I was in. What type of person do you need to become to accomplish the impossible goal? And some of the things that I came up with here, it was really interesting. I didn't refer back to these notes. I wrote them out, and then I'm pretty sure I never looked at them again until this past month when I was reflecting on how I did 200K and how I hit this goal. But the things on this list were exactly the things that had my attention and focus in 2019. So it was fascinating to see, for as much as December 2018 me thought that I didn't know what I was doing and that I wasn't ready, I knew exactly where I needed to grow for this to even be possible. So here were the things that I identified that I needed to do in 2019 to hit this goal. Focus on the most important things. I read this book, Essentialism, in August, really impacted my business a lot. So I highly recommend that for all of you. Disciplined with time and schedule. This is something that my coach helped me do. Not something that comes naturally to me. I'm very free-spirited and like to kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and I had to learn scheduling and discipline and all of that this year. Willing to invest. So I actually started off 2019 deciding not to join my coach's mastermind, and it was almost immediately something that I regretted as soon as the opportunity passed. I really was questioning myself quite a bit. It was $10,000, and that felt like so much at the time. What I didn't know is that January of 2019 was my first 10K month, and I continued to make 10K and up every month of 2019. And I think if I would have had that perspective, I might have felt a little differently about the investment. And I also, at that time, we were living on a lot of the money that my business was making. So a year ago, my expenses in my businesses have always been pretty low, but at that time we were using a lot of the profit from my business just on like fun, vacations and extras for our family. And partway through 2019, when I decided to invest in my coach's next mastermind, I really had to have this conversation with my husband and really with myself that, okay, we really need to cut back. We need to live on his income only and really be reinvesting what I make in my business back into my business for a while. And I'm glad that I did that. I'm glad that I was willing to invest, because the investments that I made were really the things that allowed me to have big growth in 2019. So what ended up happening in 2019 is that I made 100,000 in the first 9 months of the year. And then in the last 3 months of the year, I made another 100,000. So it was not evenly distributed. It was not perfect $16,000 months. It was a lot of 10,000-ish, $10,000 to $12,000 months, and then two 27, 30-ish $1,000 months, and then close to a $50,000 month at the end of the year in December. So that was kind of how that was laid out. It was kind of steady all through the year until September. Things really took off, especially, October really was when things really took off. Okay, so willing to invest. I'm so grateful that I was willing to invest. The next thing was honing my coaching and selling skills. So like I said, I started working on those things in 2018. In 2019, I went even deeper. I think that working more closely with my coach and then also having a one-on-one life coach really helped me to get better at coaching. And something that I really noticed from when I joined my coach's mastermind is how much I shifted as a coach. I feel like I got a lot stronger, a lot more brave, and it's something she calls willing to risk the relationship. But I feel like I got to this place where the growth of my client and their results and the reason that they were there became more important than them liking me. And it was a big shift for me in how I showed up as a coach, and a big shift in the results my clients got, which was amazing. Obviously, I didn't want to just be mean, right? I wanted to be tough when necessary to really serve them. So that was a huge shift for me in my coaching skills. And same with selling, being willing to ask hard questions, to be really curious when you're not attached to the person saying yes. That was a huge lesson for me. The final thing that I identified that I needed to change was to be consistent in showing up, both with my work, so showing up for work every day, but also showing up in my own mind, showing up to do my own mindset work, if that makes sense. Really being aware of my own thoughts and doing the work to shift those. So being consistent in both of those areas really made a huge difference for me. And I think it's just so interesting that a year ago, I was completely aware that these were the areas that I needed to grow, and I was very apprehensive about growing in these areas. It was not like, oh yeah, I'm just going to be disciplined and focused and get better and invest more. It didn't feel like that at all. I was terrified to do these things, and it felt really uncomfortable to see this list and know that that's where my growth was. So now I'm just going to dive into a couple other things that really made the difference for me this year, that I really attribute my growth and my success to, besides the things that I've just mentioned. So I worked with a life coach all year, one-on-one. I also was in a business coaching program with my coach all year, and really focused on being the best student. I was on her podcast recently, and one of the things that we talked about was who I was as a student in that program and how I showed up in that program. And she was really impressed. She was like, I always noticed that you were doing the work and that you were really taking it seriously and that you were getting the results. And then I also joined a high-level mastermind in August. That made the biggest shift for me. So the other things I were doing, they were kind of smaller investments for me. And my coach really, I don't want to say confronted because that seems intense, but kind of called me out in a way about under-investing, and that I really wasn't investing at an appropriate level for where I wanted to grow. And so in May, I made the decision to pay $10,000 for her mastermind, which started in August of 2019. That was transformational. There's no way I would have hit 200,000 this year if I hadn't done that. She challenged me so much to get out of my comfort zone in really scary ways that were so intimidating and sometimes frightening to me. And she never let me off the hook. And I think there was so much that she brought to the table. And then I think there was so much I brought to the table as a student that, like, I was not willing to just lose $10,000, right? Like, I needed to make my money back. I needed to grow my business. I needed to have a return on my investment, which to me meant I can't just keep making 10 to 12,000 a month. Like, I need to grow exponentially because of this investment. So I took our work very, very seriously. We started it off with an event. So we had like a weekend retreat type event at the beginning, and I took pages and pages and pages of notes. And then for the next few months, almost every day, I would read through those notes and mentally get back into that place and really study the materials of our program. I did the same with all of our calls. So we had weekly calls. We still have weekly calls. I would take at least 2 pages of notes on every single call. I would read over them almost every day for the week after. I would re-listen to the call. I really dove in like I was in school. I took it so seriously, and I still do. And so, yes, part of it is what my coach brought to the table, that she is excellent at what she does and is really my perfect teacher. I think we all have our best fits, and she truly is the best fit for me and for where I am right now. So great fit. She brought so much to the table, and then I brought so much to the table as a student. I also simplified my business radically over the course of 2019. I started off totally complicated. I had a membership program, a group program that I ran with another coach, one-on-one coaching. I also did a retreat in 2019, lots of different offers. And I really bought into the idea that simplifying my business and having one offer was going to really make the difference for me. So I committed to shifting gears and getting all in on my one-on-one coaching offer. Shortly after that decision, I became fully booked in my one-on-one at 20 clients for the first time ever, and started building a wait list, which is where I am now, filling up a wait list into early this year. I know I have several months worth of clients already booked out. So I think that simplification was such a big piece for me. I also kept getting better. I kept getting better as a coach. I kept getting better on my consults and my marketing. I was constantly evaluating myself, constantly looking for ways that I could be better. And I think that this mentality that I have of always being a student, always having more to learn, always having more to grow has really served me. I think it has kept me humble, which is good. And I think that it's also really allowed me to keep finding the edge of my growth. I also got serious about my work. So I talked about needing to be more disciplined with my time and my schedule. I printed off, I tell all of my clients this all the time, I printed off a weekly calendar of all of the hours in the week. I identified all of the non-negotiable things like school drop-off and pickup and family time and all of that. I identified my working time and then figured out how can my 20 clients fit in here with also me having lunch breaks and mindset time and all the things that I need to have in my business. And I started showing up at work, at my desk every day like it was a job. My day starts at 9 a.m. now, which it used to start at 10. Starts at 9 a.m. I'm at my desk by 8:50 every single day, usually a little bit earlier. I do some journaling work before my first call of the day. I take a lunch break. It's all very organized, like a real job. I think the biggest lesson over the course of this past year is how money is created from my thinking. And my thinking turns into value that I put out in the world. I spend a lot of time and money on my brain and improving my thinking. So I spent a lot of time thinking about value in general and how I could bring more value. I spent a lot of time thinking about my clients and my future clients and how I could serve them better and what they needed to hear. And as I took action on those things, on the things that I came up with, my income grew and grew. I think having really big financial goals, and then I think having that time where I would really intentionally think and brainstorm and come up with solutions, it really lended itself to me showing up and serving in a different way. And it really brought a lot of my own thinking to the surface. I think that's the best thing about crazy goals. Like the first time my coach offered the 25,000 in 30 days goal, I was totally challenged by that. But it brought all of the thoughts that had been limiting me to the surface, and I could see how those thoughts were holding me back. So those thoughts were creating doubts, fears, that kind of thing. And I was deciding in advance to not even try to get more clients or grow my business or that kind of thing. Like I was kind of staying at this plateau all year until that challenge. And that challenge really illuminated for me exactly why I hadn't grown more up to that point. So there's some things here that are tangible, structural things like simplifying my business, having just one offer, and really taking charge of my time and honing my skills, improving my skills. These are all things that really made a difference for me this year. But then there's the less tangible feeling things, right? The things that are all about my thinking and me being consistent and me being willing to invest and me creating value in the world that are all about my brain and my thinking. And I'm so grateful to me a year ago for coming up with this crazy goal. So grateful for me all year long doing the work, whether it was the mental work or the physical work to make this happen. And I'm really proud. So I hope that this has given you a few little golden nuggets to carry forward into 2020 and inspires you that whatever goal you've set for 2020, even if you haven't been able to figure out the math for it, that it is still within your reach and it could just be a few little shifts away from where you are right now. All right, mamas, I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day and rest of your week, and I will be back here next week to talk to you more. Also, if you're not currently in my Facebook group, that is where I show up daily and serve all of you with my thoughts a few times a day. So if you're not there, it's called Online Business Building Mamas, and it's on Facebook, and I would love to have you join. Let me know that you heard about it on the podcast when you request to join. If you like this podcast, I want to invite you to coach with me over in my program, Mama to CEO. There's you, and there's the consistent income you want to make in your business, and I help you remove everything standing in between. It's lifetime access for mastering your marketing, sales, time, and everything else you need to have the business and life you really want. Whether it's making your first 1,000 or 100,000, I can help you do it. To join, go to mamatoceo.com, mamatoceo.com.